All right, so my name is Dr. Richard Alm. We're going to go over a test to see if an athlete has an overactive posterior chain, or what I call they're using an extension compression stabilizing strategy. This is pretty common when you're actually in the weightlifting space. For a lot of reasons, you should listen to the podcast that we went over. But we need to be able to assess this really quickly and easily so that coaches can actually use it, right? So we want to keep it real simple. So with this one, we're going to ask Georgia to actually get sort of into an athletic posture or into a hang clean position. Actually, it'd be better if you just face this way so the camera can see.
Perfect.
Now, if you're in this position here, a lot of times people will overuse their posterior chain, and so the test is essentially asking them to lengthen their spinal extensors under a little bit of load. So we'll have her cross her hands on her shoulders here, and we'll have her tilt her pelvis forward, right? So that's that anterior pelvic tilt. And now we'll just have her posteriorly tilt her pelvis. Go ahead. And you can see there's a little bit of ratcheting right there, right? So go ahead and back forward. Now go ahead and try to tilt faster. And see, when we ask her to tilt faster, we can actually see that there's that ratcheting. You can take a break. You can see that there's that ratcheting. What's happening there is you're asking the brain to lengthen the back muscles at a very rapid pace. And if it's overactive, the brain is going to struggle to allow those muscles to lengthen, or that eccentric muscle action. And so that test is just a quick and dirty way that you can get in there, watch the athlete, and see if they shake when they're doing that posterior pelvic tilt. If you see an athlete that's doing that, you want to make sure that in your cueing, or in maybe some of the trunk stability training stuff that you're doing at the end of the program, you need to be doing things that teach them to stabilize in a way that doesn't overuse it. In the mixed modal space, the easiest one is to actually intentionally do hollow training when you're done. So obviously we don't want it to be hollow. We want to have what I call a pressurized hollow. So that is in that full posterior pelvic tilt, but pressure in the abdomen. And you can just do simple stuff like a 6, 8, or 10 round Tabata in anything you want. It can be in the rings, it can be in a Matador, it can be in an L-sit or whatever, but make sure that they're in that hollow position, and that's going to sort of shut off that extension compression stabilizing strategy and restore balance to what they're doing. So if you see that, you want to be doing some of that pressurized hollow stuff to actually shut that pattern down so it's not affecting their movements throughout the day.
If you saw me do that in the gym, could you walk me through how you describe to do that hollow position if I were your client out there?
Sure.
That'd
So
be awesome.
the difficult thing, or the most important thing with this, is the ability to pressurize your abdomen. And the abdomen, obviously it's just gonna be right here, but you've got your diaphragm on the top, and that's the muscle that actually generates the pressure. So when the diaphragm contracts, it comes down and that'll push the contents out. That process, that action has to happen to stabilize correctly. So what you first want to do is you can have your hands on your side like this and push your hands together so that you can kind of feel this. Now you can either just see if you can push your hands apart. If you can do that, the only muscle, the only force that can move your hands apart is the pressure in the abdomen. So that's the diaphragm coming down. If the athlete can't do that, they cannot stabilize correctly. So you'll have a lot of them, they're like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Well, then you can get them to cough loud or get them to laugh. The moment you start laughing, they can feel it. And then you want to train that to where you can actually pressurize into the abdomen, and then you're just going to get into some sort of a hollow position. Now, I advise against starting in like that hollow rock position, because most people can't actually hold that position without ironically cranking their back on. So if we get you down kind of on all fours, this is a really easy way. Number one, you can just train that pressurizing. So go ahead and push out like this. Good, you can feel that. Good, let it go. And then now, of course, you can actually tilt all the way backwards. And now she's in this sort of hollow position here. But in this position now, she can just sort of try to brace there. Or even better, go ahead and relax. She can actually try to breathe in and expand into her back. Now this is, again, tough. If she breathes correctly, or she knows how to stabilize and use that diaphragm correctly, when she takes a breath in, her spine will not lose that flex position. If she's overusing her back muscles, which not only happens in the weight room, but also happens in how she's breathing throughout the day, she'll probably lose that and go into a little bit of lumbar extension because she has to turn those back muscles on. So doing this in quadruped is a great place to start. how to train a pressurized hollow because it's controlled and it's easy to get the back in the right position here. If you were on your back holding your legs up, a lot of times you just crank your back on, you can't actually pressurize into that.
Yeah.
Okay? If they struggle with that, we could have you sit back on your heels actually and then drop down on your elbows. And here we kind of have this in a very, very supported area, and we can get her to just push her belly out against her thighs, and she can feel the pressure build, and we can see that she's still maintaining that flex position. So you can start with just pushing the belly out, or you can have them breathe into that brace position there, and then from here you can walk them up into that quadruped, and then ultimately from here, put them in the next easiest one are parallettes, and then a matador, and then rings. Those are like the progression, but you can do it in a push-up position, right? If you were to get in a push-up position real quick, I'll just show it fast. A lot of times we want, everything's gonna be straight here. She's doing a good job of keeping a better position, but sometimes people lack the length of the hip flexors to allow this position in this push-up. So the pelvis gets pulled forward, and now it's in a position where she has no choice but to use her back. So if we have her bend her knees just a little bit, you can stay up on your feet though. Good. And she can now tilt into that posterior pelvic tilt. She can hold the push-up position just like this, or do the push-ups in this kind of pressurized hollow. Go ahead and relax. So any of those exercises right there, you can just pop in your athlete's programming at the end of the day so that they're able to actually calm down that overactive posterior chain.